I'm Lexy Davis, a love embodiment coach who helps people create a love that feels like home, and I'm here to bring more romance and playfulness into the world. I'm also an international retreat host, vibe curator, and human connector. I serve people through my business, Alive to Enjoy, and this podcast where I invite guests from around the world to sprinkle their wisdom and expand your perspective so you can create the deepest love you possibly can reach in this lifetime. I also want you to live the most joyous life, whatever that looks like to you, and I hope that this slice of the internet brings you lots of smiles and helps you keep your heart open. Thank you for choosing Heart Snuggles to be in your ears each week, and I'm so glad you're here with me. Welcome, Heart Snugglers! Hoping that your heart is feeling snuggle today, and if not after this episode, it does indeed. Today, I'm connecting with a beautiful woman from a membership we're both in, which is the House of We, Wealth Embodiment. We're both obsessed with it, and it's been life-changing for sure, and I'm so excited to finally connect with more people from the community. So I'm really excited for this conversation today, and I would love for you to just go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Lexy, for having me here. My name is Renée Lemieux. Within the realm of human design, I am a 1/3 emotional projector, which is a roller coaster in itself, and a Taurus with the moon and rising Aquarius. And I am a being who just simply loves nature and loves to engage with others in a playful way of making choices in life, getting feedback from the choices, and then continuing on with life and making new choices.
So good. I love that. I'm a Taurus rising, and I'm a Capricorn sun, so we got that earth vibes coming in. So the first question of the podcast is, what was the last random act of kindness someone did for you?
What was the last random act of kindness someone has done for me? That is such a beautiful question. Wow, I've never had this question before. Last random act of kindness. I work with youth in this moment in time, and I engage with tuning forks. I have tuning forks of my own and connect with the beautiful vibration that offers my body. And I bring these tuning forks to these children, and I just sit and do it for myself to like pull myself back into me, right? Because it's so scattered to be with these younger humans. And when I do this, all of a sudden the children gravitate towards me. And a random act of kindness is there's one child specifically who will take the tuning forks and they'll do a whole like aura cleanse for myself. And every single time it is the most beautiful random act of kindness, especially from a child to be humbled in the present moment that we are all so wise in our own knowings and also such potent teachers and students. And this child who is like 20 plus years younger than me, 30 plus years younger than me, is offering me the gift of kindness through supporting my own energy well-being. And thank you, Lexy, for this question and the opportunity to sink into gratitude in this moment as well.
Oh, so cutie. I love kids, and that's such a special moment. Thank you for sharing that one. And the next question is, what's a shameful memory you have experienced around sex or love?
Oh, geez. Yeah. So around sex, I will say is when I was younger, I had an experience where I felt I was taken advantage of. And as years went on, I discovered self-pleasure and I attached self-pleasure with like this feeling of being disgusting and dirty. And it wasn't until my early years of my 30s did I begin to shift this story and the narrative in my mind that it is not disgusting and dirty, and that like this is something that is necessary for not only pleasure within self, but for that creative exploration of life as well. And it's just so big and heavy, is it not? That, and it's actually something that's moving through right now with youth that I support. And I've never experienced this before with this little soul who is kind of exploring self-pleasure, and they're, 3 years old, 4 years old. And in the back of my mind, I've been like, oh, that's not good. That's dirty. Like, we shouldn't be doing that. So it's still really ingrained within of how, who says that it's dirty, right? Like, society has deemed this expression to not be accepted. And yeah, I love that you're asking this question too, because it happened earlier today. So it's really intertwining together for me right now of,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Thank you for opening your heart and sharing that. I think, yeah, I have a similar story in one way too, where I didn't even realize women could self-pleasure. I thought masturbation was just for men when I was younger. I had zero idea it was for women too. And so there's just so much not good education, but I'm hoping that slowly shifting. I don't think it really has yet in the school system, but yeah. So I'm glad that you're working with kids and you're starting to see what you want to share and reframe that yourself, because it's a tricky one to navigate for sure, and a lot there.
So much there. And I'm really curious as well too of like how that conversation even begins to shift in educational settings where the collective energy still isn't really like playing with the idea of acceptance and openness. So yeah, super curious what even your thoughts are on that, but maybe that's a different conversation too.
Yeah. Yeah, we can that'll be a different one, because for now we're going to focus on your love life, and let's just take us on a little journey
Little
about.
journey of my love life. So when I zoom out and take in that like umbrella experience, is that I have had one quote unquote boyfriend in my life, and this lasted about like 6 months. And beyond that, I have identified periods of my life where I have like loved another deeply, but have never been in relationship with them in a reciprocal manner.
Mm.
So it's fascinating too, because it's like this one partner in my life that I had years ago. Like, I didn't really enjoy this person. Like, at the beginning, the butterflies. I'm like, oh, and like the attachment kind of happened and the ups and downs. But then I was like, oh no, I actually don't want to be here anymore. And
Mm.
yeah, and now, so I guess from like high school, even middle school, I remember someone asking me out. Like, we were in the hallway and they were like, hey, Renee, you want to go out with me? And I laughed in their face because I'm like, oh, yeah, right. Like, who would ask me out, And looking back, like, that would have been a beautiful opportunity to open up. And yeah, so since like middle school, with that one experience all the way until now, my like mid-ish, younger 30s, one reciprocal relationship, and everything outside of that has been like, yeah, it's reciprocal, but there was no like relationship involved, or it wasn't reciprocal. And I was just like, I love you.
Mm. Yes, yes.
Mm.
I've only had two boyfriends in my life as well. So, and I've, I've had a 6 month not relationship, but like we're together every day, but he never wanted to label it. And yeah, I've a lot of similar stories, it sounds like. So would love to hear about, yeah, how you've what you've been talking about, like this not reciprocal, and how does that unfold where you're giving so much, you're not receiving, but you still want to give to this person?
Oh, it's such like a self-destructive journey and experience, truthfully. And when I sink into this question, the first experience that pops up is like the initial pleasure and curiosity and gravitational pull towards the other, and going deeper, with this non-reciprocal engagement and love and curiosity with the other. And I was reflecting on this a couple nights ago, is that it's a soul to soul. It's not a human to human or physical to physical. It's like my soul remembers that soul. So let us like engage with this. And it's a beautiful time to invite in the conversation of free will as well too, right? Because even if I am like soul to soul, the other individual could be totally like tapped out of that conversation on a consciousness level. So I do feel like when it comes to the reciprocity of relations in my own unique journey, in the past, it was self-destructive in the way that I knew that it wasn't going anywhere because they would tell me that it wasn't going anywhere. But my mind would continue to circle in this infinity, like, yeah, through loop of, I know it's so good for me, I'll step back, but I really want to go over to them because there's something that they are offering me that I'm not giving myself. And I think it's beautiful now in this moment in time, right? Because there's been such a deep reflection and expansion and unearthing of who I am that that's not really there anymore. I still find myself going into like trying to hold on to someone, but that's just a lesson for me to be like, well, sweet girl, we don't, what are we doing? We're holding on. So what part of myself am I not acknowledging and loving and opening up to?
Yeah, it's mine, man. I've definitely been in that situation plenty of times, and you can have the awareness, and they're using their words and telling you, and yet it just seems like there'll be a way you can convince them, or it'll change, or we just hold on to these hopes, and it's killing ourselves in essence when we know what we want and they're not able to meet us, and whew, it is tough. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about this long partner or not partnership that you had.
So actually, initially when we were having a conversation off podcast, there was this one person in my mind who, my manuscript is all about this individual. But as we're talking now, there's a different human that's coming to my heart. Because like I love them, I fell in love with them, and I had that conversation. And it was like a 3-year relationship that wasn't a relationship because they were open to other individuals, and they're just living their life. And it was more of an intimate physical experience, but then we were both, adventurers about the outdoors. So we would go rock climbing together often, or go surfing, or go playing outside all the time. And that experience was really powerful because I learned so much about myself in the process. And I explored like sexuality in different ways with this gorgeous human as well, too. There was a bit of an age difference and they've lived their life a little bit more. So they were able to just like openly play with me. And that was really beautiful, even though I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. And even though my heart was saying like, but they may figure it out, like they may end up like falling in love with me or choosing me over the different path. So even though that story was playing in the back of my mind and in my heart, I still was not wanting to step away because of the pleasure that I was receiving in the dynamic that we were experiencing. And it was, like when you're with someone in the physical present moment, you're like, this is amazing. It feels so good. We had like one experience out of the 3 years where there was a conversation that didn't feel too good. But beyond that, it was freaking awesome. I'm like, I love this human. But then it was when I went home that, the tears would fall. I would get really sad and depressed. And like, that's really hard because they're probably living their life and like having a joyful time on the other side, meeting other people and doing this, that, and that. But my energy can't do that. My energy can't split like that. I'm so like focused in and zoned in on that one-to-one intimate relation. Yeah, so like the 3-year journey with this human being who I still love, and that's something too, Lexy, that I'm curious how you feel and how other individuals who are tuning into this experience feels as well, of how when we connect with someone and we love them so much and then they end up separating ways from us, I continue to live my life. Like when I fall in love with someone or when I am in love with someone, it's for life. And I keep that conversation open to them. I'm like, I don't understand how there can be a bad breakup, even though I totally honor, respect, and like, love to every single soul who has experienced that. For me uniquely, I'm like, I can't. Once I love, like the heart is there. We had the heart snuggle and that's going away. And so even with this 3-year journey with this human, that wasn't reciprocal in the nature of relationship. I still from time to time is like, oh, I would love to still go play with them, even though I think in a certain level it would not be too great for me. It would be a little bit damaging inside because then I would probably get back into that like attachment space. But yeah, I still love that human. It's such a beautiful soul. And I feel like I saw a different part of them.
Mhm.
And also acknowledging that it was never like a reciprocal relationship. So it was just an experience in my life. I made choices, I got the feedback, and now I'm like, let's not repeat that ever, but we can honor the experiences and the memories made in that time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful that you've gotten to this stage now where you're like, all right, it's not what I really would desire, but yeah, I still love. I also believe that. Like I'm 3 months into a breakup right now, and I like we both told each other like you're gonna be in my life forever. Like I really don't see how you could not be. So, and I've always believed in that with my one other boyfriend I've had. We said we were gonna do that, and he was not emotionally capable or didn't end up actually desiring that, even though he said he did, even though I was always open. And the other few flings I've had, I do still communicate with them. So I fully believe in that and think it's weird that we cut off someone that's so important to us in our life. Like, I don't, doesn't really make sense that you just have to eliminate them from your life.
Totally. Because they play such a big part, They made, when I drop into who I am, this version of me today, it's because of these individuals that I've had these intimate, non-reciprocal experiences with. I wouldn't be me if that never took place. And so there is an infinite stream of gratitude to these humans. And why would I ever want to cut off that stream of love? Because somewhere within their path, they are open and receptive to that as well too, even if they're saying they're not, you know.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And I think that should be more talked about because there isn't just one way when people, I don't ever believe there's one way. So when people are very stern and say you cannot be friends with your exes, I'm like, well, you actually can if that's what you both choose. So it does require a lot of communication and boundaries and things, but it is possible if that is something you desire, I believe.
So yeah, I'm so there with you. And who knows, down the line, I may come back to you and be like, whoa, I had this experience and I do not want to talk to them again. But as it stands right now, I'm all board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course, it can be person to person based too, depending on how they treated you and other ways like that too. And okay, so you've been in a few of these non-reciprocal relationships, and I'm curious, like what there was something you said too that you always knew that they weren't the person. So what were some of those things that made you know that in case someone else might be in the situation?
Yeah. So going back to that soul to soul knowing, right? Like I know this soul not from this human experience, but from prior experiences of my soul journey. If you align and relate and are open to that experience that is of having multiple lives. So even though my soul knew that like I'm not going to say that it's never going to happen, right? I'm not going to say that it won't end up being reciprocal because who knows, on a different timeline somewhere else it's totally happening, and that could be why I had this like massive gravitational pull towards them. And also in this human form of being Renee, there is that back whisper in my mind and in my heart where there's a chase. And I don't think, Lexy, that I actually knew in the moment fully that it wasn't going to happen. But now looking back, it's like there was that whisper of me trying, right? Like we're trying to make it work. We're chasing after them. We are grabbing on or always being the initiator. That's another sign for me too. Like, am I the one always texting them? Am I the one always trying to figure out how to see them or creating new memories together? And that for me, regardless if it's an intimate relationship or not, any relation across the board, I like allow that truth for me to be at the center of my altar of relations. Is, am I constantly the one seeking out? Am I constantly the one initiating? And as a projector, I'm like, I do like, hell no, we're not doing that. I'm not playing in that game. So, and out of honoring myself too, going back to your initial question, Lexy, is like that little whisper that lets me know that I am the one always initiating. I am the one always trying and trying. Like, who wants to try? It's just nobody wants to try. It takes so much energy and it's exhausting and it feels icky in the body. And that's another thing too, kind of like branching off of that trying and that whisper of initiating, being always the initiator, is there's a feeling in the body that contracts at some point. And that contraction could be happening whether we are in the physical room together or when we are separate in the physical form. That does not matter. Yet the contraction is there is a sense of me not feeling safe to be all of me with this human. And if that's happening, then how could it continue on? Right? If I don't feel safe from my own power and integrity and character to speak who I am and vocalize, like, can this continue? Then it's not going to continue because they're not in it. And their response most likely is going to be no if I'm already feeling that contraction in my inner body.
Yeah, and we often withhold that because we know what the answer will be. We know what the circuit, like how it'll unfold, and then they leave our lives. So it's an attempt to control and keep them around longer by not sharing how we really feel. And that doesn't serve either of us.
And it's interesting too, right? Because we lean into that conversation of control and of fear. And I'm going back to this intimate partner of mine that I had for 3 years, and it totally should have been cut off like maybe a year and a half. Some would say even before, because of the situation that this human being was in and is in, who knows. And that aspect of control, I feel like it's important to bring to this conversation that there is no right, there is no wrong, there is no bad, there is no good. It's the yogic path of duality. And may we honor that regardless of the relationship we are in, and regardless of the experience we're moving through, that we're always giving ourselves the spaciousness to play in the field of making choices. And like sometimes those choices are control. And sometimes those choices are control out of fear and gripping on. And if that's the case, let it be, because there's potent wisdom and learnings in that moment too. Yeah, and that feels really true. That feels alive for me right now in this conversation, is to drop this grip of, am I making the right choice? Am I making the wrong choice? What would happen if I stopped making this choice? What couldn't happen? And what if you just simply make the damn choice, follow through with it, and if it feels contraction, icky, gross, then there's a new opportunity to make a different choice. And sometimes it takes 3 years, like myself, right? Or sometimes it takes like 8 years, like the other human being that is forever ingrained in my heart. And yeah, may empathy and compassion always be in the conversation with yourself in relationships forever.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that in. I fully believe in that. And it's something I like to tell myself, my friends, and my clients is you can't get it wrong. Whether you end up staying a year longer, like you said, and it's not what you wanted and you knew all along, but like there was still something there for you in that year. And, this path was the one you're meant to take right now. So yeah, that compassion and grace is so important, especially in this work. And like this is I think the hardest journey of all is relationships, because you're with your heart and that is the most tender part of you. And so remembering that first off, no one knows what we're actually doing. Like every single love is unique in itself, and every unfolding of love is unique. And a lot of us aren't even role modeled healthy love. And so there's just so many layers here of like, there has to be compassion and grace. And I as well, I've been in a deep shame spiral for like 2 weeks. I'm kind of coming out of it now, of reflecting on all the things that, I could have done better, and the ways that the mistakes I made. Cause I always think like post breakup to, turn the finger on yourself and look at like, how was I showing up? What was my role? And it just took me into like this deep, like, holy shit, like it was all my fault, and like all these old stories and beliefs coming up. And I was heavily feeling like being all that pressure on myself and beating myself up, and coming back to these beautiful, like heartfelt truths of like, you can't get it wrong. You're just doing the best you could with what you knew, like these things that we know, but really practicing in the moments that we need them most is so important.
So beautiful. And as you're sharing, Lexy, so much love to you in this spiraling closure that you are entering now, and for the wisdom that you have received in this separation and choice, right? It's beautiful that you're so open and sharing this with us now. And what is coming through is something I've been playing with on the back end of my human experience is the conversation around karma too. And this is Richard Rudd, who is brought forward the gene keys. I was listening to a recent energy wave on this and how karma, if you resonate with this, is we as a human being, it's not our unique individual karma, it's like the collective karma, and we were chosen to have that collective karma move through us in this lifetime. And Lexy, I'm curious, when we're looking into the realm of relationships and intimacy in the relationships, there are some people who have like a hell of a time in this field, in this genre of life. And I'm wondering if it's because our unique path is here to experience the karma moving through us. What if our soul is actually here to experience all of it? And like this journey that you just shared about, right, of how it's closing on 2 weeks and how you're really feeling into this like shame spiral. What if your human body is here to bring that and to feel the sensations of that, to support with the future not having that karmic expression ingrained in them? That's so beautiful.
Yes, no, I mean, a part of me definitely feels honored to be the one breaking the lineage. And I keep reminding myself, like, Lex, look at where you've come from. Like, there isn't a single relationship in either lineage of your family. Well, my dad's adopted, so we don't know, but that in itself, but his adopted parents, like, a whole line, of people that have never experienced love. So the fact that this is one of your life purposes is like, you gotta feel it all. And as Victoria says, if you want to have it all, you got to feel it all.
Favorite. I want to get that tattooed on me. That's like my number one drop in. I have on my bracelet, like everything about that. I take cold showers now every time I shower, simply so I can practice the sensations of feeling it all. And the discomfort is simply the mind saying that the body is discomfort. The body isn't like, yo, we're in discomfort. So same thing with relationships. Like, may we all feel it all in the relations and get really curious and playful of what that is like without ever downgrading, of course, like the realities of hardship. And you were sharing of shame, like we don't want to push that away ever, but there's also always space to play in the realm of like, what is this texture, right? Like it could be really shameful. What does shame feel like? And then yeah, always unpacking and like almost looking at it as a puzzle, right? In this puzzle, each piece of, and I'm just saying shame because it's on the conversation right now, each piece of the puzzle combined is shame. But what if each puzzle piece is a different sensation? So not all of it is the same sensation in your body. And that's fun. That's fun to play with.
I agree. I think curiosity is the best. And not only, but like curiosity and play are like the best ways, I believe, to make it through these things because yeah, there's always a new perspective and way to look at it, and to just realize that like we all have this every single one of us have these human emotions. And so the more you can practice feeling those things and getting curious about these parts of yourself, you're actually helping everyone around you too, because you can help them. Once you've experienced it yourself, you can recognize it, and just a never-ending gift. So I think that's also really important to remember, that this isn't just about you when you can look at yourself in this way and start to feel these big uncomfy things.
I love this. I love this so much. And also really deeply relating with what you are sharing of how both sides of your family lineage, you have not seen or experienced this deep-rooted reciprocal union of love and partnership. And I too am in the same boat, right? And when I bring in the playing of my own unique human design and the energies that are pulsating through me, I feel like, and this is a conversation that's been on the top of my mind for a little bit now, I feel like, actually, not even a little bit, for years, I have felt like that I was not brought here to have the partnership, to even be brought here to have like the sexual journey. Because it's like, I don't, even before I ever had sex, I was like, what's the big deal? I've had it before, because I feel like different lifetimes of mine were so focused on that. And I, in my physical form, aren't here for that. And even though on both sides of my lineage, I don't see that like strong, honest, loving partnership of open, healthy communication and playing together, I know that is possible for me, through choices and opening my heart up. And I'm not going to beat myself up if I go my lifetime ever not experiencing that, because I feel like I'm not here for that. I feel like I'm here to openly play. And even now in my current living situation, I'm living with my mom in this current moment in time as I'm in between worlds, and I'm learning so much about living with her again, because I'm learning of like, what are my definite no's? And I feel like I'm a really challenging person to live with. I have super strong boundaries. I do not have the energy to communicate with people often at all. And when I think about relationships, Lexi, I'm like, do I actually want to be in a relationship ever? Because if so, that person's going to be super patient with me. And like, we'll live in maybe even different houses on the same land, or like it's to that level, right? So to really open up the conversation of relationships, of who says that it needs to be marriage, who says that it needs to be like this intense union of being best friends, even though I feel like ultimately it ends up being that, right? Like you're in that union with someone for a reason. But that's also something really alive within me right now of why is long-term relationship even needing to be on the table, at least in this current moment in time? What if like playing and really getting to know thyself is the utmost importance at the moment?
Do you want to be a part of an extraordinary trip of a lifetime where you'll be surrounded by open-minded, fun, and inspiring humans from around the world? You'll be in a space that is so safe you can express all of you, not have to hide or hold back the tears or the weird accents you love to do. The amount of unconditional love you will feel will make you feel unstoppable. You'll be in a tropical paradise surrounded by beauty in the Balinese jungle. Every day you'll eat delicious, healthy meals cooked by a local chef, and instead of cleaning up after, you'll head to the glass sauna and relax. You love growing and are ready to leap into the unknown and connect deeper to your spirituality. At the end of the week, you'll leave feeling like the weight of the world has been lifted off your shoulders. You'll be smiling ear to ear and feel as light as a feather. I will take care of all of your needs for a week at the all-inclusive Alive to Enjoy retreat this December 2nd through 10th. You can book a call with me, Lexy, at alivetoenjoy.com/retreats. And I swear this will be hands down the best way to end 2023. All genders are welcome, and all people who are here to make this world a better and brighter place. Yeah, I think we need to open that way more, because there is no, like I said, I'm a full believer of the like gray zone. Like the black and white just never resonates with me. And I think people need that space to figure out what it is they truly desire. And I mean, these things are being shown more and more now, that you can do so many different ways of relating, and even just being single, if that's what you desire for the rest of your life. Or there's just so many ways to do it, but there's only one that's quote unquote the right or good way, which is not even like, there's no rule books, right? But we all have these programmings from society. So yeah, I think just always follow what feels good to you. And maybe one moment it's like, oh yeah, this is what I want. And then even in the next hour, maybe it's the next 3 years, you're like, nope. And that's the gift. That's the best part about this human experience, is we can always make new choices, and we can always feel into what feels like that. I remember one time I was like newly dating someone, and one of my best friends was like, just each day check in. Does it still feel good or does it not? And kind of just take it from there day by day. And that was another thing that brought me a lot of grace, because I was, the more I try to like grip onto the future and figure everything out, and and need to know that this is my husband, that like I'm missing out on just experiencing and getting to know this person in front of me. And anyways, it just went like 10 different directions, but yeah.
That's so beautiful. I love that you elevated that, is getting to know the person sitting in front of you, right? Because that's what we're seeking for the other. We're seeking for the other to see us and get to know us and all of the layers and intricacies of the human. And yeah, when the mind chases forward, then are we even knowing the person sitting in front of us, or are we just attaching to like, this is my future, period?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And I kind of want to hear more about this 8 year dynamic you had.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I love rock climbing. I love rock climbing so much. And the first place I learned about rock climbing, I ended up working there, and I ended up becoming a route setter too, which is in an indoor rock climbing gym. You're creating the movement on the wall. You're the ones that like take down the holes and such. So I was a route setter, and there was this human being in this gym, and the most beautiful thing about this, right, is that they initiated in the very beginning. They initiated, so they came to me and be like, Renee, I want to, like, let's go grab a beer, let's go hang out. And I said, I'll let you know, which is really powerful, because as an emotional authority in human design, like, I didn't even know that at the time that I felt into it. I made the choice of like, I'm not going to give you the answer yet. And back then I thought that was wrong. Like, I deemed myself, quote unquote, unsuccessful and wrong for doing that, even though my inner knowing knew that that's what needed to happen. So that's just a plug there of like having compassion for the self, because we don't even know who the self is yet, half the time, or most of the time at least. Well, some people actually. Anywho, going back. So I said, I'll let you know. And then when I found that inner clarity and excitement, I was like, this person really is interested in me. I'm interested in them. So I said, hey, I would love to. And they said, oh, I actually started going back out with my ex again. And I really honor you and respect you. And I respect them. And I just want to make sure that I'm being honest, which is integrity filled so much. And it felt so good. So then that chemistry was there. And as the years went on, we grew closer and closer and more intimate as friends. And there was that, for me, that elephant in the room of like, there's something here, and soul to soul. So then I ended up moving away. I hiked the Appalachian Trail, 1,100 miles of it from Georgia to Pennsylvania. And one of the main reasons I went on that journey was to stop thinking about this person, because it was becoming so much. And I'm like, we're not in a relationship. Why? I need to get him out of my head. And it ended up being me hiking the Appalachian Trail, thinking about this fucking guy every single day. I wrote him, and one of my love languages and like super special gifts is handwritten letters. And, I'm an artist, I'm a poet. And so I'm able to really transmute the words of love into the handwritten. So I sent him, like love notes throughout, and I would journal about him. Like, I couldn't get him out of my head. And then I got off really abruptly, and I was super depressed. And anybody who's gone on a journey like that of hiking and having Gaia in the woods be your home and your sanctuary, and being in a community of so much love, it's a transition to come back into society of, the day-to-day grind, quote unquote. And so then I stopped with him, and then I ended up moving to a tiny home in Vermont. And he ended up reaching out to me out of the blue, being like, I got your phone number from someone else. So it kind of like initiated again. And then it continued going this back and forth. And he ended up staying in my tiny home one night. He came to visit. And it was such a beautiful moment, Lexy, because it's like, man, I fucking love this guy so much. And I let him know before I went hiking the Appalachian Trail, I had a face-to-face conversation with him outside, because I'm all about having like open, vulnerable, direct conversations when the time comes. Like, I'm not hiding from that, especially when I am in love with them. Like, you need to know. And I learned years ago from a loved one who passed away from cancer at the age of 16, you always tell the people in your life you love them if you love them. So even if we're not in a reciprocal union, even if we've never been in a relationship before, if I love you, you're going to fucking know that I love you, period. So I let him know, and he's like, Renee, you're about to hike the Appalachian Trail. Like, what? Timing now? Ah. So he knew after that how I felt about him. And then he came to visit me in my tiny home, and my tiny home was in the ski mountains of Vermont, no running water, compost toilet outside, heat only by wood stove. And, so he experienced that. And we had these like vulnerable conversations, and he was moving through something. And then we separated, and there wasn't like any physical. I did invite him to stay in the like loft sleeping area upstairs, but his dog at the time was like couldn't get up the stairs, so he stayed downstairs, which I feel like is blessing in disguise. Oh my God, I just feel so good to talk about this. So yeah, it's so much love for this being. So then I ended up getting like really obsessed with this human, right? I'm like, I just love them. So then time went on and nothing ended up happening. And I would always be, as we mentioned, Lexy, like being the person that initiated. I felt, but actually now that I say that, like he would reach out, right? Like he would call me every once in a while, be like, I'm thinking of you. So then he ended up calling me or reaching out. And I used to judge for the competitions, the rock climbing competitions, and I would work the events. And he's like, Renee, the comp is here. I know you're coming. Come stay with me for the weekend and we can create all these memories and blah, blah, blah. I was like, I would love to. So I jump on board. And this is wild. Like, talk about divine intervention. And then when you don't listen to the divine intervention, how it can kind of like, there's no right or wrong, as we mentioned, but there are choices in life that we make, and the feedback can be extremely uncomfortable. So I ended up driving, and, I was smoking quite a bit at the time. I was in and out of depression and anxiety. And so from driving from Vermont to the Boston area, I was smoking, I was high. I ended up getting there like way later, probably like 2 hours after I said that I was going to get there. And I drive stick shift, like that's the car of choice. I love manual. I dislike automatic, and that's okay. We all have our own. And so I'm driving my car, and literally it's the first time I pull into this human, and it was his childhood home. 10:30 at night, I pull into his driveway, like I'm turning, and the timing belt snapped in my car. I didn't know it was the timing belt at the time, but my car literally just stopped in the middle of the road. And I was like 2 feet away from like wheels in the driveway. I was like, what the flying fuck? Yeah. So I was really embarrassed because I've also, part of my karmic journey is the journey of wealth and money. So like the money wasn't there. And I was like, shit, what am I going to do? I don't have the money to pay for it. And I started thinking of all these things. So I pulled in, car timing belt snapped, ended up having a really intimate night with him. He wanted me to leave, not when I got there. Like we ended up hanging out, and then we had an intimate night, and then we rose the next day, and it was just so lovely. He was doing his thing, I was doing my thing. We drove to the comp together. There's drinking at the comp. I was drunk. He ended up drinking, and then he was going to leave me. And I don't want to say that as like a victim space. He was just going to leave, right? The comp was over. And I was like, yo, you're not going. I'm with you. We're going together. And he's like, Renee, I'm not in a good headspace. And we have this in common too, of that journey of mental health expressions and feeling the emotions on really deep waves. And I was like, yeah, and I'm here with you, and this is creating memories, and I would like to go with you. So I did. We had a super, super intimate conversation, which I only remember bits and pieces of it on the kitchen floor. And then, so he knew how I felt, right? Before, for years, it's been like this culminating experience. It happened, and then he ended up driving me back, and we went our own ways. And then time went on, and I reached out to him, and I would send him emails, and I wouldn't get that's something else to traveling back to our earlier conversation, Lexi, of what are those like little points that let us know that it's not a reciprocal and it's not healthy. Like I would reach out via text or email, and they would never respond. So he would never respond. And so I sent him a few emails. He never got back to me, but I'm persistent, and I'm like really powerful in that way. So he ended up getting back to me, and he's like, Renee, I'm going in my own direction. I'm moving out of state. And I let him know, I'm like, yo, I'm in love with you. And this isn't, and he's like, yeah, it's not gonna work. And he did it. He spoke way more eloquently in the email. Although what I will say is that in that back and forth journey, and I'm sure you can hear in my voice like how much I really, really enjoy this human. It was to date the most heart-wrenchingly horrid experience of my life to move through the mourning stages of not being with the soul. And as time continues on, you know, and I ended up moving to California, and that was really random. I wasn't going to live in California, but I just ended up happening there. I kind of drove that way, and I would reach out to him. He would never get back. And I realized that throughout it all, yes, we all make choices and they're not wrong. And there were a series of choices that I believe I made. And I take ownership of that and responsibility of that, that allowed our deep love of friendship to no longer be alive, to the point where like we bumped into each other randomly. It was a very well-known climbing destination in California. Very, very, very well known. But what are the chances? Like, I went to go open the door of a coffee shop and he opened the door at the same time. And there wasn't like, he didn't even give me the time of day and he bolted. And there was that, and that was like a re-heartbreak all over again. And even now, I'm like, I feel deep in my soul that I will see him again. I feel deep in my soul when we're older, like we are going to be friends. And I feel like we are the same soul, you know, however, whatever terminology you want to use, if you even believe in that on a spiritual level. And also maybe add into the conversation here that every single relationship is simply a relationship with yourself. So my deep, deep, deep feelings of this human being that I wrote a fucking book about, like my manuscript, Chia-isms, was going to be published back in 2021 and then 2022. And now it's set to be 2024 because the journey of writing is just something that is so life altering. And that book is all about my expression and experience with this human. Because if I have gone through this, other people have gone through it. And I would never, ever, 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 ever in 100 zillion years ever take back anything that was experienced because I fucking love him. And I feel like on some level, he also feels that too. But we can't force something. And I tried, like, Lexy, I ended up, before I moved to California and drove across country, I didn't have his address. So I had a whole like bag of handwritten letters. I couldn't burn them. I wasn't going to throw them away and I wasn't going to take them with me. I mailed them to his parents' house. I'm like, I came off a stalker, like huge stalker. I'm sure he's like, maybe that's why he acted how he did when we both opened the door of the coffee shop because of how it unraveled and how like I did come off as stalker because I probably kind of was. But what can you do when your heart just desires someone so deeply and not because of like an intimacy, but because the soul is begging to be united again with a person that you spent lifetimes by. And I said that to him the night that my car broke down going into his driveway. We were sitting together and I turned to him. I'm like, I have known you all of my lives. I have known you for all of it. And he's like, I agree. And to have that moment of clarity of like, regardless of what we believe in, our soul is speaking to our soul. And that's why there's like this tether that can never be burned, broken, anything. You can't burn that away. You can't. And why would I ever want to? So I just love him. And I respect myself enough now. I respect myself enough now in the relationship that I have with myself to never behave in the ways that I behaved with him. And who knows if it's possible with another, but I'll never repeat that. And holding such compassion for myself in that space. And I did reach out to him one last time before I moved back in November 2022, I believe it was. I emailed him without any expectation of him emailing me back. And I kind of knew he wouldn't, right? But I emailed him and said, yo, I need to let you know that I'm going to be I'm publishing a book and it's about you. It's anonymous. Like I won't share your name, but you must know that like there's a book that's going to be coming out for the world to see and you're all over it. But not to, and the book never, like, just as I'm sharing now, there's no air of like anger towards him. There's not one shred. There's disappointment for sure of maybe how we've acted, and sadness, of course, dances amongst the breaths in between of loving him. But yeah, and to have that experience, to fall so deeply in love, to be reunited with someone who is so important to you, to never have the intimacy that I feel was available or possible. And maybe it wasn't actually, who knows? Their life, but yeah, now I'm kind of just blabbering I'm just so grateful for that experience, period.
Yeah. Woo. Thank you, thank you, thank you for opening up with us. And I'm just gonna take a moment to feel your heart and that grief. So much grief there, even with the acceptance and the love and everything else that was present, but just honoring that part of you that, never got to fulfill this such soul aligned love that you so strongly was present, and it's just a hard feeling to be with. And I'm just sending that part of you all this love and the way that you've been able to move through it and still smile and share with such love and write a book about it. And like just so many things just shows what kind of human you are, And so I'm just honoring you in that. And although you may not want it, if you do, I really, really cannot wait to hear about this reciprocal love you fall in love with one day, because you have so much love to give. Clearly, a whole fucking bag of letters. My God, that's a dream. I love I love love letters too. So like, please, I'm calling that in. Someone give me a
Yeah.
whole bag of love letters.
Oh.
uh,
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And it's funny, with the 3-year unreciprocal relationship, I did write this human being love letters, and he was not open and receptive to them. Like he kind of threw them away, never talked about them ever. And I was like, whoa. And I pushed that aside. I ignored it. But deep down, it's like, sweet girl, we can't ignore those signs. Like if you are passionate about something in your life, in the way that you express your love and your intimacy and your pure, raw, unique expression of your truth in that moment, and the other person is not open and receptive to it, may that be the pillar in that moment that builds the new house of expectations, and not expectations, but of what you are open to and for. And yeah, from this moment moving forward, like any lover that I engage with, if they are not open and receptive to my love letters, we can't do this anymore.
no, I agree. And it's so possible because I had a like, I don't know, maybe it was like 1 month, 2 month thing with some man. And it was 1 week before I left for Australia when I moved there. And we decided we were going to end it after the week. Like, I just met him, but we're like, I'm leaving across the world for who knows how long. And then he, right as I'm boarding my flight, sends me this huge love letter message. So for 16 hours, I got to just reflect on this man. And then for a month, every morning and night, I woke up to these like beautiful romance novel texts. And I was just like, wow, like men, this is possible in men. So just expanding you and letting you know that it is so possible to have that reciprocated.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing of and planting that seed in my heart space as well too, of how even that can be reciprocated, right? The way that I show love can even be reciprocated, not just received by the other. And
yeah, and this was
that's
like I said,
beautiful.
1 week. Oh, like so it wasn't even, so it's totally possible for you to not just be received but be reciprocated in that, which and they're gonna come out with a romance novel about you.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
I'm putting all these things out there for you.
I love that. Yeah, and to tie that into the previous share that I had too of who knows if I'm here for love or not, or
Mm.
not for love, but that intense relationship of reciprocity. And even by saying that, I acknowledge that maybe that's a storyline in my own mind that I've created, and that can be released at any moment in time. And maybe that's just an armor for myself in this present moment of moving through this stage and season of life. So, if any, yeah, for us and for any others who are tapping into this energy and conversation, that may we always remember that anything that's replaying in the mind of a story, it's simply a story and it can be rewritten in any moment. As you mentioned earlier about the feelings, right? Like we can feel one way and then a different way, and let's honor those feelings.
Mm. Yes, yes, 100%. And it could be armor, and just like you also said, like you can't get it wrong. So if right now that's your story and that's your firm belief, then let it be until you're like, wait. Or maybe even just hearing what I said opened you up a little bit, and that's also special. So whatever it is, I am just grateful for you and all the magic that you have.
Oh, I'm grateful for you in this space and the heart snuggles. It just feels so good to be in conversation with you, my dear one.
Thank you. So the last question of the podcast is, what is one of your favorite romantic memories?
What is one of my favorite romantic memories? Romantic?
Yeah, like where it felt like there was romance, like or romantic, and yeah, in any way.
Okay, something I'm just going to share the first thing that just came to heart and mind. And so it was me and then this 8-year-old, not 8-year-old, but eight human being that I love through 8 years and 8 seasons and ongoing. And then also another friend of ours who was intertwined in the climbing community. We were in Vermont in Smuggler's Notch, and it was dark outside, and we were night climbing and wrapping it up. And I just felt called to lay in the middle of the road, which I do so often at night. It's just so much fun, and how thrilling it is. Like if a car comes, you better get up fast. So I chose to lay in the middle of the road and look at the stars. And if anybody's experienced Vermont in the middle of the night, it's breathtaking to view all the stars, especially up in the smugs. And we were laying, and then the soul came and laid next to me, and our other friend laid too. And there there must be an essence of romance in the air because that memory came forward. There was also the expression of intimacy and playful openness, right? And even though it wasn't just this one-on-one experience and there was another human in the quote unquote room, that's a memory that has been tattooed on me. And to be able to have that experience with someone you love is just so lovely. To not say anything, to just share in the beauty of Gaia and nature and the infinite. And maybe part of the reason, and how funny it is that like the mind tries to define the experience, maybe part of the reason that experience is quote unquote romantic for me is because with the soul we were gazing at the stars, and like that's where we came from. That's where our soul is born there and have lived so many infinite lifetimes there. And yeah, thank you for asking.
Beautiful. I love moments in nature, and I think silence is something that is not cherished or recognized enough. And I have so many of my favorite memories just being in silence with someone, but that energy is so potent, and so that's a beautiful memory. So thank you for this whole time. You really were open and snuggly, so I appreciate you so much, and would love for you to share with people how they could find you or connect with you, anything you were offering.
Oh, so much love. It's so beautiful. So my Instagram, you can find me at I am Renée Lemieux, and also on YouTube where there's a whole plethora of gatherings to explore emotional waves through holistic practices and somatic practices. I'm very, very excited. Actually, tomorrow I am opening the opportunity for individuals to connect with me on a one-on-one basis. So we have a 1 week of a human design reading. And then there's also 1 month of uniquely you one-on-one spiritual guidance. And then we have Friday one-on-ones, which are 3 months of one-on-one guidance. And then you can also find me at my podcast, which is the Forward Movement Podcast. And yeah, I'm just so excited to play with everyone and connect with everyone's own unique human expression and guide folks, myself included, to the remembering of who we came here to be through the choices we make and getting feedback from those choices.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So much love to you and to all the souls out here who are exploring their own unique path and journey of relations and intimacy and self-love and self-pleasure. Such a beautiful one to lean into.
You made it to the end of the episode, so now it's time for our Snuggly heart breath of the day. Place a hand or both hands, if it's safe to do so, over your heart and take a big breath into your heart center. Open your mouth and let it go. I'm so grateful to have shared this time with you. If you enjoyed this convo, please share with your besties and your fam. And if you're a visual person like me, fly over to YouTube and watch the video. If you want to do a random act of kindness today, please leave a 5-star review so more people in the world can get their heart snuggled. You're helping tremendously when you do this, so thank you so much. And as a gift for doing so, I'll give you my Soften Your Heart Medi that feels like an exhale and a hug from within. When you leave a review and email me the screenshot to heartsnuggles@alive2enjoy.com, you can also find the email in the show notes and you'll get the free meditation. Sending you the warmest, comfiest hug and lots of unexpected blessings your way. Remember that every single person just wants to be loved. So how can you be loved today?